Mitchie's third proverb in his book Opening Concepts is the idea of fighting for a good point. And in the book, he just kind of launches straight into it. But I saw an interesting presentation that he did to the women of Backgammon where he talks about this. And he has two questions. He says, well, what is a good point? And you see the three sort of oval shapes I have there. If I put a board onto them, you know them already. The three good points we have is our gold point, our silver point, and our bronze point. Our, in order is our 5 point, our 4 point, and our 7 point. They're the 3 points, and they're the points that we really want to have. So we're prepared to kind of battle with our opponent to try and win those points, and we win them when we've made 2 checkers on them. So we've made those points. The second question that Mitchie asked in that presentation, well, what does he mean by fight? And in the presentation, he says, when he says fight, he means to hit loose. In other words, you hit without covering the checker. You take a bit of a chance with it. But I'm going to add to that and say it's not just about hitting loose. It's also about staying there, leaving the checker there and trying to cover your blot. So you leave that, a blot on one of the good points and try and cover it. Mitchie's suggestion is that if your opponent's back checker comes to one of your good points, you have to hit loose if you can and try and win that point. So let me give an example. As usual, we're bearing into the bottom right hand side. You'll see that black has rolled a 5-4, and in return we've rolled a 2-1. So black with the 5, they brought their 5 from their 13 point to their 8 point and stacked another checker there safely. But with the 4, they ran one of their back 2 checkers. So if you look down the bottom right, they've used that 4 to take the black checkers and move forward 4. It's on our golden point, our 5 point. We really want that point. So we must hit that black checker. And we have the 1 that, we can hit that with the 1, so we bring it down with the 1. Now you could say, well, look, we'll run the checker at the back just and split our back men. But better than that, we'll put that back for a second. We're better off bringing a checker down from our midpoint on the top. If you look top left, bring down with the 2, because if we roll a 6 next go, we can cover that single white checker we have on our 5 point and make that point our own. So we are in effect leaving our checker there and fighting for it and really hoping that we can make our golden point. If as Mitchie said, if our opponent starts trying to take possession of some of our good points, we really need to just hit them and take our chances. And there's 21 out of 36 chances that we'll be hit back, but it's still the right thing to do. And as increasingly I'm going to be looking at XG just to kind of corroborate what we're saying here. And you'll see it that the right move is playing from the 13 to the 11 point with the 2. And then the 6-5, the asterisk there, just a reminder, means that we've hit one of black's checkers and sent them back. The other move I suggested where we split at the back is in green. The green ones mean that they're an error. They're not right, but they're not disastrous. Anything in red is called a blunder and means that we really want to avoid that if we can at all. Now, in every match, you make blunders, but we want to try and avoid the red ones where we can. So, the only other example Mitchie gives is this situation with a 4 and a 1. And again, if you look at the bottom right quadrant, our home board, black has advanced forward with a 3 and has has put a checker on our 4 point, which is one of our good checkers. So we've got to hit black. We can with the 4, we can bring it from our 8 point in and hit the black and put them on the bar. This time there's nothing else we can do except split at the back because there's nothing else productive to do, and that's the correct move. We take a chance that we'll be able to cover that, and if we don't cover that, there's loads of space. It's not like we're going to get stuck in the bar forever. There's loads of space in our opponent's home board. Gary Koscielny in sunny Florida Backgammon Club, in the videos he does about Mitchie's opening concepts, he came up with this position, which I think is quite interesting. Because, again, if you look at black down the bottom right, they've put a checker on our 5 point. We want that 5 point, so we're going to hit. So you could bring a checker down with the 5 and then, tamely pull a checker up the back and say, well, look, we don't want to leave any shots, so that's probably the tamest, but it's far too passive and will lead to problems later on. Instead, let's put that checker back, and with the checker that we brought down, we just hit black. Let's just hit them. And I couldn't believe this when I first saw this position. I was saying, hang on, yes, we're fighting for a good point, but it's black. Think about it from black's point of view now. There are 2 white blots, two single checkers in our home board, black has a 1 or a 5, black's going to hit us. And it looks suicidal. But again, look up at the top right, black's home board. If we do get hit, we're coming back in again. There's no problem with it. And it's worth the risk. What we're trying to do here is battle for the really good point, the 5 point. If he hits us on the 1, it's a pity, but so be it. But if we can make our 5 point, we're now in a really strong position. So I couldn't believe this. I thought maybe Gary Chishelny had made a mistake and he didn't mean to leave that loose black at the 1 point. But when I put it into XG, sure enough, it was the right move, absolutely the right move. Gary Chishelny also comes up with another interesting position here. A 2 and a 1. Has black got a single checker on any of our good points? Well, not in our 5, not in our 4, but on our 7 point, our bronze point. You'll see that in the bottom left quadrant, there's the lone black checker there on our 7 point. So we'll fight for our good point. We'll use the 1 to hit them. We could tamely, and just first of all say, well, look, we don't want to take any risks, and we tamely move up from the back instead. We're just waiting for trouble. So let's just put that checker at the top right back again. No, we want to hit black's checker on the 7 point. So we use the 1 to hit black and put them in the bar. And I wasn't sure about this, but the correct move is to bring another checker down. Now that looks like an awful lot of blots in the bottom left quadrant for white. And I thought, is that a bit risky? It is risky. But you know what? If black doesn't roll big numbers, we're in a really strong position. So it's worth, again, we fought for that 7 point. And again, just double checking what XG says. XG says it's the right thing to do. XG, obviously, if you're new to Backgammon, is the main program used nowadays for telling you how it's AI basically telling you what the right move is. So here's a position that I got wrong. This position comes from Michi in his presentation that I saw, and I have to admit I got this wrong. So have a look at this. How would you play the 2-1? If you want to pause the video, and assuming that you have unpaused, well, I thought I'm going to fight for a good point. I looked in the bottom left quadrant. He's got that lone checker on a 7 point, and I thought I'm going to use the 1 to hit. That's going to come in with the 2. We had a checker on the bar there, just to emphasize. Bring the checker off the bar with the 2, and then hit black with the 1. And I thought, well, I fought for a good point. Amn't I great? But I forgot one other important thing. I think this is very instructive, which is about the importance of points. I was fighting for our bronze point. Now, we already have our gold point, but think about it. If you want to see the Irish team in the Olympics and you could win gold and bronze or gold and silver, what would it be? Of course, it would be gold and silver. So let's put everything back. So rather than fighting for our bronze point, we should be fighting for our silver point. So instead of coming in off, you can see the checker on the bar there. Instead of bringing that checker in with the 2, we bring it in with the 1, and then we use the 2 to go from our 6 point to our 4 point, and we fight for the more important point. So we've got our gold, and now we're fighting for our silver point, and that's my move there was the 4th. Looking down the list of things, big blunder, 221 millipoint blunder to a foot for the 7 point, when obviously we should be fighting for the 4 point. Now, Dan Rivera is a great English commentator or teacher. He does a series of lessons on YouTube called Backgammon is Beautiful. They're nice short lessons, and you can listen to their kind of 6-7 minute lessons. It's just something to think about. And his very first lesson talks about hitting once or twice, and it ties into this thing about fighting for the best points. So he uses this example. In this situation, black has opened with a 5-1. They won with a 5-1. They moved the 5 from their 13 point to their 8 point, and they split at the back. So then on the bottom right, they split their back checkers with the 1. So they took one of their back checkers and moved it forward 1. Always a good thing to do because you start getting them moving. And in return, we rolled a 4-1. And 4-1 is quite a nice situation for us. Now, first of all, what beginners will do wrongly, and it's kind of very much a beginner move, and you'll need, as you get stronger back down, to shake this off. You could play the 4-1 down with the 4 from the 13 point, and nice and safely there. Yes, it's safe, but it achieves nothing. And all you're doing is stacking up more checkers in the 1 point. You've even less flexibility, and you haven't really achieved a hell of a lot. So instead of doing that, let's just get rid of that idea. Most experienced players will try and avoid that playing 13 to 8 with a 4 and a 1, if at all possible. But we can do something more adventurous with our 4 and a 1. We can hit with the 4, and now we can double hit. We can move on, and the 1 we can hit a second time. So that's the right way. If our opponent splits their back checkers with a 1 and we roll a 4-1, the correct thing to do is to hit them. Now, it looks amazing. We've got 2 of their checkers on the bar. That's got to be amazing. It's amazing, but it's not the end of the world. We could be hit back. If we're hit back, again, as I said before, it's no big deal, but we are going to be behind in the race. Nearly worse is if our opponent doesn't hit us back, that checker's sort of out of the game for the rest of the game. So 4-1, it's nice to put our opponent on the bar with 2. It means that their entire next go is going to be occupied with trying to get off the bar. So we're going to gain a little momentum. But it's not. We do it. The real reason we do this is because it's the only thing to do. But instead of our checker, imagine if our opponent hadn't rolled a 5-4. I beg your pardon. Imagine if our opponent hadn't rolled a 5-1, but instead of rolled a 5-4, and they'd done the same thing with the 5, and they brought it from the 13 to the 8 point. But with the 4, they'd advance the back, and that's typically how our opponent would play a 5-4. Imagine now we roll a 4-1. You might be forgiven to think, well, we've got a double hitting. We can hit with the 1 and move it on 4 and put we're back where we were again. We are, but it's far less. We've missed out on an opportunity. There's something better we can do. Let's hit once and just leave it there for a second. We're now on a. Remember the purpose of this proverb: fight for a good point. The 1 point is not a good point. It's really too deep. We're burying a checker is the phrase that's used. It's no good to us. So instead, rather than double hitting, we come down with the 1 all right, and we put one of the black checkers in the bar. But we're far better off just bringing another checker down from the midpoint down. You see the one there in the bottom left-hand quadrant. Because now if black doesn't hit us, it's just an extra chance to cover our own checker on our 5 point and make that point. So because the 5 point is a good point, we don't hit. And as you can see, it's the third choice there. It's a 55 millipoint error to double hit in this situation. So Dan Rivera goes on to show you another situation with a 3-2. What if we roll a 3-2? Well, I think you will work out. We want our 4 point, black is on it, so we hit with the 2. And the best thing to do is come down, and another builder comes down from the midpoint, and we're going to try and make that the next time. And again, there's the figures for it. Finally, Dan Rivera takes a situation where he says, well, what if we've made our golden point, and now we have the opportunity to double hit? We could put 2 black checkers on the bar in a home board by going the 2 and the 3, and that would be a lovely situation to have. It would, but let's just go back there again. We've made our golden point. Black is on our silver point, and we do want that silver point. If you can win gold and silver, it's better than just winning gold. So we'll come down with the 2 and hit it. But again, we won't bother with the double hit. Instead, just as before, we'll bring a checker down from midpoint and give us more ammunition to try and make that silver point if we can in the next roll. And I suppose here's an example of, let's say we give black gets out but doesn't hit us, and we give black a little anchor there, and now we roll a 6. Well, we bring the 6 in, and suddenly we have a situation where we're very strong. We're nearly at a double, offering the double here because we've got such a strong position. Our 6 point, our 5 point, and our 4 point, which in backgammon is known as the rack, by the way. So that's this lesson. The third proverb in opening concepts, this idea of fighting for a good point, and it's really at the start. Just have a look and see if your opponent moves a checker onto one of the points that we really want, our 5, our 4, or 7 point. You should be aiming to hit them off it if you can at all, even if it looks a bit risky, and even if you think, oh, that's too dangerous and leaving our blots lying around to be hit. It's still worth fighting for that point rather than tamely letting them have it. That's it for this lesson, and we'll be back shortly with the fourth proverb.